Congressman Matt Gaetz represents the Florida Panhandle, and he and I and everyone here at Breitbart have a nice little thing in common here. Congressman Gaetz, how you doing, sir?
Good morning. It's an active day on Capitol Hill. President Trump's about to arrive here to speak to the House Republicans, and everyone's excited.
Oh, I thought it was Senate Republicans, House Republicans too.
He is coming to the people's house, and I think it's going to be a pep rally style environment. You know, he has not addressed the House Republican Conference in the Capitol since he was president, and it's going to be nostalgic for those of us who remember him here leading the team and setting a vision, and really for those who've never been a part of Trump on Capitol Hill, a lot of members are excited to see it.
We were just talking about the deep state, rooting out the deep state. It's got to be top priority. Number one, we played a clip of Nixon saying that the CIA had motive to get rid of him because he wanted to reform the CIA and the FBI. And we want to do the same. We need to do the same, right?
Personnel is policy, and our ability to obliterate the deep state is going to depend on our ability to get people confirmed at CIA, FBI, Department of Justice, NSA, very quickly, because we've got 4 years of runway here, no more. And I think the first key decision that has to be made to pave the way for that is the vice presidential selection. Here's why. We can't have a vice president who just goes to weddings and funerals. We actually need a John Adams-style vice president who will preside over the Senate. This notion that you let the Senate majority leader dictate the calendar and when the Senate's in and when the Senate's out and when recess appointments can happen, that's a relatively new phenomenon. Constitutionally, the vice president is the president of the Senate and can say, oh, you don't want to confirm our CIA nominee? Well, then guess what? We're on recess for the next 6 months, and nobody gets their post offices, and we're going to be doing some recess appointments while you all are home. That's the type of energy I want to see out of the vice presidential pick that unlocks the ability to do those reforms.
That is such a good point. That's so good. I've always thought of that the VPs, the president of the Senate, whenever there's a tie, and like that's it. Like he just ceremonially comes in at that very moment and breaks the tie. But you're saying no, they're the president of the Senate all the time.
Yeah, I think that we think about the vice president in the Senate like the special forces. They come in only when necessary and they leave as soon as the job is done. I actually want someone who's more infantry and is like there for the long slog. And I think J.D. Vance was an infantryman.
Wow, I see what you did there, Congressman. I see what it is. Hey, I want to chat with you about this story on Breitbart right now. That this Ukrainian website, the State Department linked Ukrainian website, has an enemies list that Breitbart's on, you're on. That man you just mentioned, J.D. Vance is on, Vivek, a bunch of other people. What is this? What's happening?
Well, when we provide for a lot of this aid and money to the State Department, it filters its way through a bunch of NGOs that hate us. And they're run by a bunch of like defeated left-wing politicians from around the globe and left-wing operatives in the United States. And what they've done is they've taken that money to create a global smear campaign against largely the populist voices on the right in America who want to have a focused, realistic, modern foreign policy. We don't have to relive, World War II in our minds over and over again like it's some sort of rerun, where we can see the world in the terms that lay before us in 2024. And I think that the best move has been by Jim Banks, my colleague who's on a glide path to the United States Senate from the House, and he sent letters to the people who were on that list. Then Representative Banks put into the National Defense Authorization a defunding of these entities. We'll have to work that through negotiating with the Senate. But this is not new or novel. There's an entire web of NGOs who do things to hurt our country that we pay for. Creating these enemy lists, certainly one vector of that. Also, when they're smuggling people across the border and distributing them throughout the interior of the United States. And look, I get I'm not for everyone. People, not everyone is into my deal. But if you don't like me and you think I'm a dirtbag, I would at least hope that you wouldn't want to borrow money from China to give it to an NGO and indebt your children and grandchildren just so that your taxpayer money could call me a dirtbag. Like, I think we could do that without the NGOs.
Listen, you guys control the money. We're just talking to Senator Ron Johnson, I think it was yesterday. And we're talking about how the Senate, how Trump's winning in some of these states, but the Democrat senator who's running is winning as well. Like that doesn't make any sense. And he's like, oh, well, it's earmarks. Right, like Tammy Baldwin has these huge earmarks that she's able to get, and he criticized Mitch McConnell for allowing that, whatever. So, like, watch that money. Like, we got to control that money. But this is on a way bigger scale. This money that we're giving to these NGOs, who, as you say, not only hate us but are actively doing things to hurt us too. It's one thing to have, I guess, an enemies list. I don't know, and say, hey, I don't like Matt Gaetz. It's another to say, hey, here's millions of illegal aliens from around the world that we're helping funnel through the country. What the heck is wrong with us?
We must have some like self-pain kink in the House Republican Conference, because we complain about these things, we conduct investigations into these things, we reveal to the public what the problem is, but then when it's time to make a decision about the money, we send the money. And you can drag Merrick Garland before the committee and holler at him and make him feel bad for the choices he's made, but if at the end of the day the check's in the mail and you're going to fund the activities of the Department of Justice, they don't really care about the rest of it. And the reason that happens is because we do these continuing resolutions and these omnibus bills. I am like on my own little Gaetz jihad for single subject bills. And if you had single subject spending bills, then you could actually isolate these programs and these NGOs with particular amendments to defund them, and you could force people to take on record votes on specific things. See, now the reason you get the dynamic you talked about is folks can deflect the harmful votes they take for the country because they say, well, I got you this wastewater treatment plant. Well, I got you this road. And that is unpatriotic. We cannot oversee American decline while we build senior centers and museums. We have to rescue ourselves from our inevitable financial fate if we don't stop accruing $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. You realize that? Every 100 days, $1 trillion more in debt, and we're refinancing trillions of that now at higher interest rates thanks to Joe Biden.
I want to play this clip. We're talking about Congressman Matt Gaetz, of course. I want to play this clip. This is Paul Ryan. Now, I don't care about Paul Ryan at all, but Paul Ryan is on the board of Fox. He's on the corporate board of Fox, so he must have some influence, I imagine, at the message that's getting out there. I don't know, but here's what he said about Trump and you.
I do support getting out of the primaries legislators who are going to Washington, going to Congress to legislate, to join a team to advance conservative principles.
That's what Donald Trump says when he primaries Republicans. So do you support that?
He's cost us a lot of seats. I could probably spend some time and come up with the numbers. He cost us the Senate twice. He cost us the House because he is nominating. He is pushing through the primaries people who cannot win general elections, but who pledged fealty to him. That's not a good way to build and grow a party. Ever since 2016,
but what's the difference between that and what Kevin McCarthy's?
The point I'm trying to make, let me finish that point. Sure. We need legislators, not entertainers. And what Kevin, I assume, is doing.
He's talking about you, Congressman.
Well, there's, just because Paul Ryan isn't entertaining doesn't mean there's something wrong with the genre. But, how many seats did Paul Ryan lose us? Because last I checked, it was Paul Ryan who lost us the majority because he fumbled and bumbled on the health care bill. And he spent so much time twiddling around about that, we kind of lost the plot. The core thesis of every Republican election was that we were going to repeal Obamacare. Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell failed to do it, and then they want to blame Trump? It is nonsensical, and it's disappointing that Paul Ryan's on the board at Fox News, and I think he actually does have a good deal of influence on the programming there. But here's the good news. I think conservative media is more fragmented than ever before in our lives. Like, we have so many opportunities to get the message out and to communicate our positive vision. We don't want to nominate people who aren't going to win general elections, but we also don't want to nominate people who aren't going to fight. What's the point in having a majority if we don't ever take it out for a spin? If the only people we elect want to stare at their nameplate and, talk about how great they are. I want people who will fight on the border, on the budget, and the bureaucrats. Paul Ryan never delivered those people. Donald Trump is working to do so.
Yeah, what's the point of winning? Because he goes on and says that he had a 20-seat majority. Great. What'd you do?
Right.
What did we do with it?
Yeah. Well, we go look at all the post offices we renamed while we had it.
That's why we have Trump, is because we won. Republicans have won in different times and did squat with it, or worse, or did worse.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further. I actually think that, like, if we'd have nominated, Tim Scott with a nice smile, like, there's a chance we would have gotten 60% of the popular vote in 140 states, but we wouldn't have saved the country. it would have been an empty win. Like, I'd rather win with Trump with 51% than Tim Scott with 60%, because I actually want to do the things that will result in a secure border, balanced budgets, and bureaucrats that are brought to heel.
Was that a dig at Tim Scott? Did I miss?
Well,
did I hear that right?
But would you follow him into battle?
What do you like about JD?
JD's tough, and JD is really smart, and JD brings people around a vision, and he sees around corners. And I think he knows the Senate enough to preside over it with force, but he hasn't been there so long that he's got great reverence for the most modern of destructive traditions.
Oh, wow. Give me. I know you got to run. Give me. Re-say that last sentence again.
Well, there are destructive traditions in the Senate regarding how they deal with nominations. They only take up one every 15 hours. They have this notion of an invoked filibuster that no one actually has to go and do. So we need someone who's going to get our people in place. Look, we're going to be having some real disappointing conversations if we're, a year into the Trump presidency waiting for the Deputy Secretary of Commerce to be confirmed so that we can execute our trade agenda. We got to go. This country is going off a cliff soon. We don't have a lot of time, and that's why forceful action, boldness is demanded. And I think that's what I'm about to hear from Donald Trump in about 15 minutes in the Capitol building.
Oh, that's great. All right, we'll let you go there. Matt Gaetz, he represents the Panhandle. Matt, great to talk to you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you as always.